Okay, this is the third time trying to record this. Greetings, groovy people. Welcome to the channel. This is the self-proclaimed Blue Dragon. Before I get into this video, I want to first and foremost thank anyone who commented on last week's video. I'm going to reply to your comments. By the time this video posts, I may have already done so. But I do want to thank you all for your kind words and comments. Really, I do appreciate it. And I'm not ignoring your comments. It's just been kind of a whirlwind, as you might imagine. Second thing I kind of want to get into is clearly I have audio this week. I pulled the trigger on last week's video. I had recorded it back in July before I left to my parents' house. I think I'd gotten word from my mom either July 7th or something that my dad at that point had stopped eating, and on the 11th I think he'd stopped drinking. So initially I'd been planning to go home in September so that I could build up all my buffer and then just go, help care for my dad for his remaining days. But as it turned out, you can never predict these things anyway, so I was kind of playing things by ear, and through the good fortune and blessings or something, I mean, I am religious, though I don't talk a lot about my faith, but I lucked out, and my neighbors actually work for an airline and were able to get me emergency tickets that, they were kind of a roulette, whether or not, they're basically just empty seat tickets that if those seats don't fill, you get to go, right? So I was able to leave on July 13th and make it in time to spend time with my dad for several weeks, or for a week before he passed away. I got there on Wednesday night on the 13th, and in a very strange case, Dad, because he always was stubborn as a fucking mule, he survived until the 21st without food and water. And I'm not going to go into any more detail about that. But through all of that, I had edited 2 videos that I had prepared, the audio and the video. Well, no, the video recording I did while I was at my parents'. I did a screen recording of coloring some Dark Horse pages. But the audio I had recorded prior to, and I had to use my old editing program because my travel Mac is too old to use iMovie. So I was using VideoPad, and oh my god, y'all, that Q&A video that was so long, I got it completely done and then discovered that my partner, in an attempt to help me before I got iMovie, had downloaded a newer version of VideoPad, but it was a trail version and I could not export it. So I had to redo that entire video, and, between dealing with, I, as a relief for my mom, who had been primarily taking care of my father. I mean, my sister was helping as well. And then when I came home, I'm pretty stoic when it comes to, that kind of thing. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's certainly traumatizing and hard to do, but I can compartmentalize things fairly well and just kind of take care of the task at hand, if that makes sense. But because it was the case that I need to be in every 2 hours to make sure that my dad was comfortable with his medication, and other care that I won't get into details about, I just decided, that I can't, there's just no time, and I'm not gonna be able to make any more videos, even audioless videos. So, I'd already had that come and get it video completed before I left, because it was a quick video. I did it back in July before I hopped on the plane. And then the midterm check-in video and the Q&A video, those were all edited in the old program, which is slow and it was too much to kind of juggle, if that makes sense. So I went ahead and pulled the trigger on that update video because I wasn't sure how things were going to be whenever I got home. I knew that I was coming back on August 11th. I am back, but my plane ended up being delayed several hours, 2 hours. And so by the time I got home on Friday, it was Friday in the AM that I got home. I was kind of tired and I had, things to do on that Friday night. And so I was really glad that I had gone ahead and posted that video, because there was no way in hell I was going to be able to edit another video before I traveled home to Portland. But just because, of all the things that you have to do in the wake of losing a loved one, especially if that loved one was the primary wage earner, because my mother was a stay-at-home mom. And so all of their bill-paying income when my dad passed away was disrupted. So the entire time after Dad passed away, we were dealing with trying to make sure that the house wasn't repossessed and that utilities and everything were going to be paid, because this is a very slow process. It can take several weeks for you to get a death certificate, and in the meanwhile, you aren't getting any money. And we were having, I'm not going to go into detail about this, but they're just through odd coincidence, the funeral home that we chose, the person in charge was having his own personal emergency, and he handled that situation with my father very unprofessionally. However, I will say he made everything right, and we have no ill will towards them, and we aren't pursuing anything. But it's just a crapshoot, that all of this shit happened, and you don't really, you're also in the process of trying to mourn someone. But at that point, I was like, there's so much around the house that needs to be done. My mom's not young. My sister is a single mom. So she and we were working on, trying to make sure that things were taken care of at the house, both indoor and outdoors. I mean, just normal, physical labor things that my mom is unable to do. And quite obviously, my dad was not able to do. So as I mentioned in last week's video, I prioritize real life, and there was just no way I could realistically do all of that. I barely was even able to keep, in contact with my fiance, who, he wasn't dealing with me being gone so long very well either. We're very codependent, especially over COVID, he'd been working from home a lot, so for me to be gone that long, it was hard on both of us, but harder on him because, I at least was around family and loved ones, whereas he was just, stuck at home working his 10-hour days, taking care of the dogs, and not really getting to have a lot of leisure time, and plus, just the stress of, not being with someone. We love each other, clearly, so there was just so much going on, and so that's why I ended up going ahead and scheduling last week's video. Even though I knew I was going to be back on the 11th and would have time probably to make a video this week. But as it turns out, this is why you're getting this kind of shitty video with just the background. I think I'm cutting up paper in the background. And that's because I was just I just recorded that yesterday, or maybe the day before, over the weekend, essentially. And I just wanted to kind of give this update video. Obviously, I was able to do this with audio this week, but it's very simple. I'm not really doing anything complex or talking about anything that's going to really benefit any indie artist out there. But what is to come next week, I'm going to be returning to my normal schedule, because I'm going to have a little bit more time. And I'm kind of a workhorse. I obviously am dealing with mourning. I had several weeks with my family, thankfully. I'm in a position where I was fortunate enough I could be home with them during this time. And so, now that I'm back home, I do need to contact my therapist. I do want to talk to her. She's a grief therapist. I'm fortunate enough to now be insured through my partner. We got a lot of things we got to do. I've been holding off getting married because I wanted to make sure that I was, there to help my family with Dad. And there's no way we could just leave Dad at home if I got married, so right now we're doing, we're kind of trying to play catch up on, our things that we'd been putting on hold here because of the more important things going on at my family's house. I mean, not that getting married isn't important to me, but we held off because of COVID in 2020, and then we're like, well, 2021, Dad's starting to go downhill even more, and COVID's still here, so let's hold off on that. We're not even really having a big white wedding. We just want to have like a small ceremony and a little party, and then this year, I've been traveling every other month for several weeks at a time, just, to make sure that I'm there as much as I can be for my family. So now that my father has passed, I am going to be returning to, my normal schedule with videos. I've got a lot of projects and things that I'm going to be working on and talking about. And then there's going to be like real life stuff that is not really going to be a focus of this channel, but just kind of trying to pick up the pieces from, essentially your life being on hold for like 3 years, if that makes sense. But I wanted to kind of give this update video because it might feel a little premature posting last week's video, but I had to post something, I felt, because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to make any videos or if I would even be able to do like the audio list videos. But as it turned out, I was able to get home, and that's why I'm doing this audio right now. Next week, I'm going to be doing a video on an art market that I am attending on August 20th. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do it, but considering all the travel that I've been doing this year, I wanted to make sure that I tried to earn a little bit of money on my own, because this is not me doing a pity party telling me to, asking for money or anything, y'all. This is just me saying that we're trying to make up for how much we've, been spending on travel. So I was able to sign up for this art market, which is pretty good. And I was accepted. I participated last year. It was put on by True North Studios. This is their second annual art market. This time it's titled Better Together. The person who owns the studio, she is so cool. They really try to make studio space affordable for artists because, especially in the Portland area, prices for studio space can be really expensive, so they do try to be accessible to people who have a little bit lower wage earnings. And this market was also pretty reasonably priced, so I'm very fortunate to have gotten accepted. And I've got some things that I want to try this year that I didn't do last year, because I did make a few sales last year, but I want to be a lot more aggressive, because I really do want to try to save up some money, because we're taking our personal life off hold. So I'm trying to help prepare for some of these things. And it also just, is something that I've been wanting to focus on more. I've been advertising Dark Horse on Top Webcomics on that website. So I've got some things planned for this year. In the background, I mentioned that I'm cutting up little pieces of paper. One of the things that I'm planning for this art market on Saturday, I'm running a free chibi sketch promotion this time around as kind of a way to try to bring people into the booth. It's just going to be like a free chibi sketch. If people want it inked, I'm going to request a tip, but it can be whatever people choose. And I'm going to be giving away copies of Act 1 of Dark Horse and having a promotional sale on the other two. So I'm going to see how that goes. I'll have some traditional art as well. I might have some stickers. I still have stickers from years ago. But I sold a couple of those last year, so I'll have those out. But I'm going to have some traditional art in a binder and hand sanitizer set out. I'm going to wear my mask because my partner has asthma. So I'm going to be wearing a mask at this event. He's just going to drop me off and I'm going to set up my stuff and that's going to be cool. And so I'll be doing a video on that, kind of talking about, what worked, what didn't, as a means to kind of give people who are maybe relatively at my skill level, either a little bit of inspiration, tips, or, what have you on promoting your own indie art. Now, if your art is at a higher skill level than mine, these tips are probably not going to help you. You're probably doing, you know your thing better than I do. So this is mostly just kind of reporting what has and hasn't worked for me. And maybe that'll, help other people who are at my level with trying to make sales. Because I'm still trying to figure this thing out too, And if I can impart some knowledge or something that may help someone out there with their stuff, then that means a lot to me, because it's a way to help people who want to sell their art learn how to do it. And again, I don't have a lot of experience with this. I don't make a lot of sales. I have some fantastic patrons. I have a Subscribe Star member, and I've sold a few things at the markets and conventions I've been to, but I wouldn't say that I'm nearly as successful as most of those artists. So this is still me just kind of feeling around, trying to figure things out. I did donate to the raffle. I'm going to have the link to True North Studios down in the description for anyone in the Portland area who wants to attend that event. I'm not telling you that you have to come to my booth, but if you want to go to the event and support indie artists, there's also going to be a raffle where the proceeds are donated to a local arts group that helps promote art among the local community. So it's kind of a cool deal. If you ask me, it's kind of them giving back to the art community. So I donated a couple pieces. I donated an acrylic painting that I made back in 2015. And then I also donated a piece that I painted of Rena with ink. And then I donated Acts 1 through 3 of Dark Horse for that raffle. So there's a couple things that I was providing in hopes of, helping kind of give some support to that raffle. It makes me feel good, and also I had that picture kind of hanging around the house and I didn't have it hanging up. So I was well, maybe I should do something useful with this. So I decided to donate it to the raffle because it was just kind of taking up space. Then the week, let's see here, August 31st, I always do that Q&A the last Wednesday of the month. So that's probably what I'm going to do, August 31st. And then in September, I'm really going to start promoting and discussing this paid gig that I got with Iridia Magical Girl Collective. They're doing this Magical Girl 90s zine, which has both collective members and members of the public that applied, and we voted on who got in and who might be a better fit for other zines. But that's going to be this big Kickstarter that's going to happen later in the year, where they're going to have a full color printed zine. And this thing sounds like it's going to be, reasonably sized, because there are several people who were accepted. And, a lot of us, like myself, I'm going to be doing 8 pages of art. The public, they were allowed, I think, to do 4 pages of art, up to 4 pages or less, however many they wanted, up to 4. But there's so many people who are participating that this thing is going to be a pretty big deal. So I want to be talking about that quite a bit in September. I don't know if it's going to be every video. I mean, obviously I'm going to have the Q&A on the 28th. But I really want to do a promotion for this because there's a lot of people involved And people are getting paid for this regardless of whether or not the Kickstarter succeeds. So our head witch, Nan, she's paying for this out of pocket, y'all. And if we reach certain benchmarks, then the artists get a boost in what they're paid. So I mean, this is like one of the coolest things, one of the coolest opportunities that I've been a part of. And I mean, as an indie artist, this is one of the few avenues of payment that I receive. Aside from like I said, my patrons and my Subscribestar member, those people are awesome. This is something else that is really going to be helping me start saving for things, that I need to take care of. So I am going to be advertising that a lot, especially because I just like the collective in general. We had like that fashion magazine thing that was free. They just gave that away. So, I mean, yeah, this is a kind of a big deal. So I want to do a lot of advertising for that. The last announcement, I don't even think that I mentioned it here on this channel, but because of what was going on in my personal life and how much stress Twitter really engenders, I feel, I had kind of, like, back in April stopped posting on Twitter altogether. I'm kind of starting to get back into Twitter because I do need to do my, pull my weight in promoting people in the indie art sphere. So I got a suggestion from one of my colleagues who post on Comic Fury. They had suggested that I just switch my search thing to another language that I don't speak, so that I'm not constantly looking at that doom scroll bar on the right. So I'm going to be returning to Twitter. I've already started posting things. And if you're an indie artist out there that wants me to share your comic or something, I can take a look at it, and as long as it's nothing that's really heinous, I don't mind, retweeting it or sharing it with. I have 135 people who follow me, so I'm not a huge channel, but that's 135 eyes. So, I'd be happy to promote you. I mean, I won't do it all the time, but if I've taken a look at it, I can pop you up there, and maybe if I like what you're doing, I'll even follow you. So you can, that's kind of just something that I wanted to mention because I was getting so depressed on Twitter, depressed and angry, and it really is created to be addictive. I've been able to really I'm pretty good with the things that they notify me on, or the things that are on my, that I scroll down. It's primarily indie artists, but that sidebar I have no control over, and you see it and it's designed to make you click. So I need to change that so that I can't read it, so that I don't want to click on it. Oh my god, if that makes sense. But yeah, this is the third time recording this. My first recording, I got pretty emotional. I got really personal, more personal than I did in this video, and I was like, that's really too much personal information. So I tried recording it a second time, and then I messed up and was like, no, I'm getting personal again, stop. I think third time's a charm. This is a long video, but I feel like I owe it to everyone. I hope I sound okay, too. I know I kind of probably sound a little stuffy, because I totally cried in one of the recordings. I was like, no, stop that. But I am doing okay. I'm going to end this video fairly positively. In October, I'm going to be doing an homage to my dad, because his birthday was in October. I think I'm going to do... I don't really do realistic sketches on this video very often. I'm mostly cartoony, mostly manga inspired. But I think I'm going to sketch a musician named Tom Rush, who is one of my favorite folk musicians from the 60s and 70s. And he was someone that I remember as a child. My dad, he used to, when we were real little, we had this big goldenrod colored velveteen rocking chair that swiveled. I mean, picture 70s. It was totally 70s. It was this totally 70s rocking chair with these buttons. Oh my god, I can visualize this chair. It was, I think I cried whenever we ended up having to get rid of it. Eventually I don't know if it broke or what. My sister and I used to sleep in one room. We used to share a room. And then eventually, I got my own room when Dad moved his, my dad moved his office, his personal office, so I got my own bedroom. And I think that's about the time when we had to get rid of the golden chair, and I loved it. But I remember when we were kids, if it wasn't Mom sitting there reading children's books to us, it was Dad reading poetry like Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, Shakespeare. He read the famous soliloquy, Hamlet soliloquy. He would read to us. We didn't understand a word of it, but he read it to us. Joyce Kilmer. Trees, that was one of my personal favorites. I can't speak to my sister. I don't know which ones were her favorites, but that was one of my favorites. And Longfellow, The Day is Done. But something else he would do is he would sing out of tune some of the songs by Tom Rush, primarily Merrimack County, which is to this day, when I finally heard the record version, like there's several versions of it, but when I finally heard them both, I was like, boy, that didn't sound a thing like how Dad used to sing it. But that kind of has like a lot of meaning to me because we shared a lot of music that we liked. And so I'm probably going to do a sketch or drawing. I don't know how detailed I'm going to get. But I'm going to do that of Tom Rush as kind of like a farewell homage to my father. I won't pretend that he didn't have his faults, but, all things considered, we had a healthy, happy upbringing for the most part. I know my parents argued, but they didn't really argue in front of us when we were kids. And I know that Dad did the best he could with what he had, considering that entire generation had such a stigma on mental health care. The times he actually was working on it and taking what he was prescribed, he was so much better. And if our society had just not been so fucking stupid about that, he would have been better off, throughout the entirety of our youth. So I remember mostly the good parts. I remember some of the, some of the shaky events in our childhood, but both of my parents did a great job raising us with what resources they had, and they kept us safe. I mean, I hear horror stories from a lot of people that I've known, things that, parents who are cruel, parents who belittle them, and then that's not even getting into other traumas that I'm not going to talk about. So all things considered, I feel that I, was very fortunate, very blessed, and in spite of my dad's faults, I have a lot of really good memories surveying with him. He had a private surveying business because we didn't have a lot of money. He did like side gigs. And I would help him, and as I grew older, my level of help, grew, and I got to, help survey a cemetery in our town. And that resulted in me getting to actually look at a stone, which was a marker. That's how a lot of times they used to mark things back in the 1860s and before. I got to actually look at a stone that Abraham Lincoln set, and I got to hold the prism pole on the stone. And one of the things that Dad did to make me occupy my time is, you gotta get that bubble in the circle so that it would be level. And it was like he played it off as a game, but really it was working. But I had a really good time. I always wanted to do more. I wanted to hammer the pins in, I was carrying lath and, helping with not just the surveying gun, but a lot of times you had to have the big long surveying tape, I got to hold that, or he'd let me go and run with it and say, stop on this thing, and, whatever. It was, a lot of fun. I have a lot of good memories, as well as, you know, the turmoil. The good memories tend to bubble up more, I think. And I think that's important. So, yeah, those are some of the things that I kind of want to talk about. But I'm going to wait until October because things are still pretty fresh. And I don't want to, like, you know, get super emotional again. I probably will get emotional. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I guess it's time to end this video. I thought I would be shorter, but no, it's still just as long. Yeah, I'm sorry, everyone. Thank you again for your support. For those of you who commented, for those of you who didn't comment, I don't mind. That's fine. You don't have to say anything. Thank you for your time. I want to thank my patrons again. Really, they've been... yeah, I'm just going to say thank you to them. I don't want to... Anyway, thank you for bearing with me during this time. Thank you, and honest to God, people, take care of each other. Life's too short for us to be nasty to one another. Now, if there's someone toxic in your life, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying be the best, kindest person you can be in as many situations as you can be, because it's just not worth it. And life is such a struggle. It's just, you know, if we aren't taking care of each other, I don't know, I just feel like it's best to take care of each other and be as kind as possible, because there's so many things out of our control that we can't really influence. But our individual experiences and interactions with one another, and empathizing with each other, and trying to make just daily life as positive and as good as possible, because there's so much out there that is not positive, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm trying to say at this point. I just think, you know, we got to take care of each other and be kind to each other as much as we possibly can. So be safe. And I'm going to go ahead and close the video. Peace and love. Fare you well. And keep on trucking.